Hey everyone, it's Anna and I'm back with another vintage cookbook. This time I'm reviewing Most for the Money Main Dishes, a Campbell cookbook. This book was published in 1975 and I have had it for many, many years. There happened to be a Campbell soup factory near my hometown and I was lucky enough to go on a tour of said factory sometime in my early teens, and at the end of the tour they gave us one of these cookbooks, among other things. Even though this book was published in 1975, I got it brand new in the early 90s, so they must have had an entire stock of these stuck away somewhere in a storeroom. Most for the Money Main Dishes implies money saving, pantry staples, that kind of thing. You're gonna get a lot of casseroles in this cookbook. Salisbury steak maybe on the front cover. I feel like whenever I see a binding like this, it's gonna be good. This is gonna be a vintage cookbook that I'm gonna love. Betty Crocker has a lot of bindings like this, so whenever I see this somewhere, I always grab it and take a look. Doesn't that look sort of like a cornflower blue casserole? I know it's not exactly the same, but it's got that real Corningware kind of look to it. Of casseroles and compliments, nothing compares to the mingling of hearty flavors in a piping hot casserole. See, I told you there were a lot of casseroles in here. So smile as you tuck one of the following dishes neatly into the oven. Your family will when they catch a whiff of that come and get it aroma. And again when they dig in, cheers to the cook. Hot dog potato bake. Love the exclamation point on that. The name of this recipe is possibly my favorite in the entire book. Sassy beef and noodles. What makes this sassy, you might ask? It's got ground beef, chopped onion, cream of mushroom soup, salt, beef broth, water, noodles, and then I think this is the sassy ingredient. 1/4 teaspoon of hot pepper sauce. It did not take much in those days to add a little sass to your meals. There's little tips and tricks all throughout this book. Some of them are very helpful, including this one. Shopper's enemy number 1. Impulse buying. This scoundrel takes control of your arm and is extremely dangerous to your budget. To protect yourself, carry a shopping list at all times, eat before you shop, and leave the rest of the family at home. So that eat before you shop one, that is a mistake I often make. Maybe I'll go early in the morning and I won't have breakfast, and then I end up with the weirdest combination of things in my cart. I do recommend having a little something before you go grocery shopping or even taking a snack with you. Lightning spaghetti. I hope that means lightning fast. That's what I'm guessing here. So we begin with a can of spaghetti and tomato sauce. I found several vintage recipes that rely on a can of spaghetti and tomato sauce. I have never thought of that as like a family meal. That was always like something that we had during the summer. So easy lunchtime, can of SpaghettiOs, can of Franco-American spaghetti. Never thought of putting it in a recipe, but this consists of ground beef, chopped onion, condensed tomato soup, spaghetti and tomato sauce, and then grated Parmesan cheese. So that would be pretty fast. I don't know how good it would be. Speaking of fast, Frankfurter Express. Now boarding Frankfurter Express. This is a Frankfurter Express train to the airport. Okay, I'll stop. Popeye eggs and noodle bake. Do the youngsters today know who Popeye is and like that he was about spinach? Spinach is heavily featured in this. Blast from one of my past videos. Remember Soup Mates? Soup Mates is not a thing. Campbell's wanted to make it a thing, it's not, but here we are. So there is surprisingly a baked goods chapter in this book, and of course we have the famous tomato soup cake. You can't have a Campbell's cookbook without a tomato soup cake. But there was another recipe in here that I just left me scratching my head a little bit. Applesauce oatmeal cookies. That sounds great, I love an oatmeal cookie. However, there's a can of cheddar cheese soup in this oatmeal applesauce cookie recipe. I am very intrigued. I've never heard of a recipe like that. I do wonder how it affects the taste or if it's in there for textural purposes. Has anybody ever tried this recipe for cookies with cheddar cheese soup in it? I would love, love, love to hear about your experience, so please leave me a comment down below. And with that, I'm ready to share the recipe I'm going to be preparing today. Today I'm going to be preparing stuffed shells Neapolitan. And we are very lucky to have a photograph of stuffed shells Neapolitan. It's right on the back of the book. When I got this cookbook, I thought, that looks delicious. Little did I know, there was an interesting ingredient in these stuffed shells. There's a can of tuna in these shells. Not that that's super unusual, I just think stuffed shells, I think like a red sauce pasta, I think cheese, I never think tuna. But just because I was so intrigued by the look of these shells, I ended up making this recipe for 4-H for one of my project interviews. And it went over really well. I do remember making this several more times growing up, but it's been a while. So I'm gonna give it a try and see if my tastes have changed or if I still like it as much as I did back then. Let's get started. The first thing you want to do when you're making stuffed shells Neapolitan is cook your shell pasta. I got these jumbo shells. Not always the easiest to find, I will say. So the cook time just on these pasta shells by themselves is 15 minutes. Usually if you're making like a cheese stuffed shell with sauce on top, I would tell you to undercook the shell pasta a little bit. With these, there's no like external sauce, so you can go ahead and cook these for the full 15 minutes. These are my cooked shells. The recipe says you need 12 cooked jumbo shells. I always like to cook a few extra because you don't know if you're gonna have one that like falls apart or tears in half or some other pasta mishap. We start with soup. This requires 1 can of cream of celery soup, and I think we all know how I feel about celery, so I'm going with cream of mushroom. I think I did something similar when I made this recipe the first time. To me, most cream soups are interchangeable anyway. Get it all in there. Whoa. This healthy request version was a substitution. They didn't have any of the regular kinds, so normally I would buy the real deal. Combine soup, lemon juice, the tiniest amount of lemon juice of your life, half a teaspoon, oregano, 1/4 teaspoon. That's all the spice she wrote. They were very conservative with the spices in these days. And then we have 1 package, 10 ounces of frozen chopped broccoli, cooked and drained. This is just one of those like steam in bag kind of things that you put in the microwave. I cooked it, I cooled it, I drained it, and then I chopped it a little bit more because all of this mixture has to go inside the shell. So you don't want any great big pieces of broccoli. Broccoli in. Tomatoes, we have 1/2 cup of petite diced tomatoes. These happen to be the Italian seasoned variety because I grabbed the wrong can, so I apologize in advance for the extra spices here. Tomatoes and tuna, 1 can. Tuna in the bowl. Stir this all together to combine. If you really think about the ingredients in this, it is a cost-effective dish. This is going to serve 4 people. I spent about $1 on the broccoli, 89 cents on the tuna. I got the soup for about $1 on sale. The can of tomatoes was I think like 89 cents and I didn't even use the whole thing. And then you have your spices and stuff. And your pasta, and there will be some cheese, but you know, that's pretty cost effective. And you can get some of these items for less than I spent. You know, I live in a part of the country that's maybe a little bit more expensive. If you wait for sales and you stock up, these are a lot of things that you would keep in your pantry. So I would say this is probably a most for the money main dish. Well, I do remember this mixture not looking super appetizing on its own. I mean, it's colorful. The pink tuna and then the tomato mixes with the mushroom soup to also make a lovely pink color. Our mixture is good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and stuff those shells. So it says to stuff these with about 1/4 cup of mixture. I'm not gonna measure, I'm just gonna get in there whatever I can. Stuffing shells is a little tricky. I can't say I'm the best at it, but I've done it before, so I'll give it my all. I'm not probably gonna look as pretty as that picture, but we'll try. And do be prepared to get messy hands. Today I am using my one and only Horizon Blue dish. Isn't she pretty? Love that pattern. I believe these bowls may have gone with the set of nesting bowls, but this is the only piece that I have that is actually printed. Don't use it too often, but you guys are special. I feel like this is a lot of mixture. I think the shells back in 1975 may have been a little bit more jumbo than these because I'm not getting a lot in here. I'm not gonna make you watch me do all these. Oh boy. Oh shoot. Oh heck. How many Midwestern expletives can I say in one video? This is my pasta stuffing face. Okay, kiddos. Tucking you in with the others. I was only able to fit 10 of these in this pan. I did use a 1.5 quart dish like it said. I don't know. So these go into a 400-degree oven for 20 minutes. I throw a little cheese at them and then bake them for 5 more. Here we are, cheesy and delicious. Maybe. I don't know if they're delicious. I can't remember. I baked these for 20 minutes. I threw a little cheese on top as directed by the recipe. Baked them for 5 more. I did let these cool for a little while. That's what we got. It's gonna fall right off the plate if I'm not careful. Here we go. It's like tuna casserole inside a pasta. Inside a pasta? Rather than having like tuna noodle casserole with macaroni or noodles, the casserole is inside the pasta. The call is coming from inside the pasta. They're pretty good. If you like a casserole, I understand. Some people don't like this kind of thing, but I grew up with it and I'm from Ohio, so I love it. I could use a little more seasoning. I say that with every recipe. The cream soup that I used was like less sodium, so I do kind of miss the salt from that. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty tasty dish. Definitely worth a try. And very cost effective. Here's what I spent to make this dish. And you get 4 servings. I cooked a recipe from Most for the Money Main Dishes, a Campbell cookbook. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel by clicking on the red button below. I post new content every single week. Thanks again, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!